When the Facebook message arrived on Rosemarie Laurent's phone on March 15, 2023, she thought it was another scam. A woman named Patricia Chen, claiming to represent a Miami-based nonprofit called New Horizons Educational Foundation, was offering full scholarships to 3 Haitian women for a certified nursing assistant program in South Florida. Housing included, work permits arranged. A pathway to legal residency. Rosemarie, 24 years old, had been working as a translator at a small hotel in Port-au-Prince for 3 years, earning barely enough to help support her mother and 2 younger siblings. The violence in Haiti had gotten worse. Gangs controlled entire neighborhoods. Her cousin had been killed in a crossfire just 2 months earlier. Everyone who could leave was leaving. She showed the message to her 2 closest friends, Océane Dubois and Léa Moreau. They had all graduated together from a nursing program at Université Quisqueya in 2020, but finding work that paid a living wage had been impossible. Océane, 23, worked at a pharmacy making less than $50 a month. Léa, 25, assisted at an understaffed clinic in Cité Soleil, one of the most dangerous areas of Port-au-Prince, where gunfire was so common that patients sometimes arrived mid-surgery. The 3 women had talked for years about emigrating. Canada maybe, France if they could manage the visa process. The United States seemed impossible. The immigration system was a labyrinth, and Haitians faced particularly harsh scrutiny. But this message seemed different. Patricia Chen's profile showed a professional woman in her 40s, standing in front of medical facilities, posing with other young Haitian women in scrubs. Her organization's website listed partnerships with hospitals in Miami-Dade County. There were testimonials from previous participants, photos of graduation ceremonies, smiling faces holding certificates. Rosemarie video called Patricia that evening. The woman spoke fluent English with a slight accent, explained that New Horizons specifically recruited Haitian healthcare workers because of the growing Creole-speaking population in South Florida. The program lasted 6 months, 3 months of intensive training, 3 months of supervised clinical work. After completion, the women would receive their CNA certification and assistance finding permanent employment. The organization covered everything: airfare, housing in a shared apartment, meals, uniforms, even a small monthly stipend of $300. Why us? Océane asked during the call, skeptical. Why free? Patricia smiled warmly. The program is funded by federal grants and private donations. We've placed over 200 Haitian women in healthcare positions in the past 5 years. Our mission is to create opportunities for talented young people whose potential is being wasted because of circumstances beyond their control. She asked for their nursing diplomas, identification documents, and vaccination records. Within a week, she sent official-looking acceptance letters on letterhead, along with detailed instructions. They would fly into Fort Lauderdale on April 30th, 2023. Someone from the organization would meet them at the airport. They should bring only essential personal items. Everything else would be provided. Rosemarie's mother was nervous. "How do you know this is real?" she asked, gripping her daughter's hand. "What if something happens to you there?" "Manman, we've verified everything," Rosemarie assured her. "The website is registered. The address is real. I looked it up on Google Maps. Other girls have done this program. What other choice do we have? Stay here and wait for things to get better. They're not getting better." Leia's father, a retired teacher, was more cautiously optimistic. He had a cousin in New York who had emigrated legally in the 90s. "America has laws," he told his daughter. "If anything seems wrong, you go to the police. They have to help you. You're not going to some lawless place." The 3 women spent the next 6 weeks preparing. They took English conversation classes at a community center. They researched Miami online, watched videos about American healthcare facilities, practiced medical terminology. Rosemarie's mother sold a small plot of land to give her daughter $200 for emergencies. Océane's boyfriend proposed before she left. She said yes, but insisted on waiting until after the program to marry. Léa withdrew her entire savings, barely $150, and sewed it into the lining of her backpack. On April 30th, 2023, at 6:00 a.m., the 3 young women arrived at Toussaint Louverture International Airport carrying identical black backpacks Patricia had instructed them to purchase. They wore the clothes they'd been told to wear, casual but neat, jeans and plain shirts, nothing flashy. Rosemarie's mother cried and made them promise to call every single day. Océane's boyfriend held her until the final boarding call. Leia's father blessed all 3 of them, pressing small silver crosses into their palms. The Spirit Airlines flight took 3 hours. None of them had ever been on a plane before. Rosemarie gripped the armrest during takeoff. Ocean kept looking out the window as Haiti disappeared below them, her eyes wet. Leia prayed silently, clutching the cross. When they landed at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport just after noon, the Florida heat hit them like a wall even inside the terminal. The airport was enormous, gleaming, overwhelming. Announcements echoed in English and Spanish. Families reunited with shrieks of joy. Business people rushed past with rolling suitcases. The three women stood near baggage claim, scanning the crowd for someone holding a sign with their names or the New Horizons logo. 20 minutes passed. 30. Rosemarie tried calling Patricia's number. It went straight to voicemail. She sent a WhatsApp message, not delivered. Then, a white man in his 50s approached them, wearing khaki pants and a blue polo shirt. He was smiling broadly. Rosemarie? Ocean? Leia? They nodded, relieved. I'm David. Patricia had a medical emergency this morning. Her mother had a fall. She asked me to pick you girls up and get you settled. I'm one of the program coordinators. He spoke slowly, clearly, like he was used to working with non-native English speakers. Something felt slightly off. Patricia hadn't mentioned anyone named David, but the man seemed friendly enough, and they were exhausted from travel and overwhelmed by the airport chaos. David helped them with their bags and led them outside to a parking garage. The vehicle was a white 15-passenger van with tinted windows. Inside, the air conditioning was blasting. David loaded their backpacks into the back. The apartment is about an hour away, he said as they pulled out of the parking garage into the blinding Florida sunshine. You girls can rest. I'm sure you're tired. For the first 20 minutes, the drive seemed normal. Highway signs for Miami, Coral Gables, Homestead, palm trees everywhere. Strip malls with Spanish names. But then David exited onto smaller roads. The urban sprawl gave way to agricultural areas, vast fields, industrial warehouses, isolated houses set far back from the road. Where exactly are we going? Leia asked, her English halting. The training facility is in southwest Miami-Dade, near the Homestead area. David replied smoothly. It's more affordable out here. And quieter. Good for studying. Rosemarie checked her phone. No signal. That was strange. They were still supposed to be in a major metropolitan area. Ocean noticed it too and exchanged a worried glance with her. Another 30 minutes passed. The landscape became increasingly rural. Farms, groves, empty two-lane roads cutting through flat, marshy terrain. The occasional house, often run down, sometimes abandoned. This didn't look like any part of Miami they'd seen in photos. When David finally turned off the main road onto an unmarked dirt path, Rosemarie's stomach tightened with real fear. This doesn't look right, she said, more forcefully now. Where are we? Almost there, David said, still calm, still smiling in the rearview mirror. The van bounced along the rutted path for another 10 minutes, past thick vegetation, standing water, and a few dilapidated trailers. They finally stopped in front of a single-story cinder-block house painted a faded yellow, surrounded by overgrown grass and a chain-link fence. There were no other buildings nearby, no neighbors, no signs of any educational facility. David turned off the engine. Welcome home, ladies. Before they could react, two other men emerged from the house. The two men walking toward the van were younger than David, perhaps in their 30s. One was Hispanic with a shaved head and tattoos covering both arms. The other was white with sandy hair pulled into a ponytail. Both wore dirty jeans and tank tops. Neither smiled. Rosemarie's hand shot to the door handle. Locked. All the doors were locked from the driver's control. Let us out, Leia said, her voice shaking. This is not the right place. You made mistake. David turned in his seat and his friendly expression had vanished completely. His eyes were cold and flat. You girls need to listen very carefully. You're going to get out of this van calmly. You're going to go inside that house. You're going to give me your phones, your passports, and any money you have. If you cooperate, nobody gets hurt. If you scream, if you fight, if you try to run, things will get very bad for you very quickly. Do you understand? Ocean started crying immediately. Rosemarie felt her entire body go numb with terror. This couldn't be happening. They were in America. There were laws, police, embassies. We have no money, Rosemarie lied, trying to keep her voice steady. Please, just take us back to airport. We go home. We tell nobody. David laughed, a short, ugly sound. You're not going anywhere. You're going to work. You're going to do what you're told. You belong to us now. He reached over and pressed the unlock button. The Hispanic man yanked open the sliding door. Out. Now? They had no choice. The three women climbed out of the van into the oppressive afternoon heat. The air smelled like decay and stagnant water. There was no sound except insects and the distant rumble of a plane overhead. No houses in sight, no road noise. They were completely isolated. Inside, the man with the ponytail ordered, grabbing Ocean roughly by the arm when she hesitated. The house was worse than the exterior suggested. Dark, humid, smelling of mildew and something else. Sweat. Fear, desperation. The front room contained only a sagging couch, a small television, and empty beer bottles scattered across a stained carpet. Black plastic covered the windows. A narrow hallway led to other rooms. David pointed to the couch. Sit. They sat together, holding hands. All three of them shaking. The tattooed man stood by the door, arms crossed, blocking any exit. The one with the ponytail disappeared down the hallway. Phones, passports, money. David repeated, holding out his hand. Everything, right now. Rosemarie pulled her phone from her pocket with trembling fingers. No signal anyway, she'd already checked. Leia handed over her backpack, watching helplessly as David unzipped it and pulled out her Haitian passport and the cash sewn into the lining. He found it in seconds, like he'd done this before. Ocean sobbed as she surrendered her documents. David examined each passport carefully, almost casually like a customs officer. Rosemarie Laurent, 24. Ocean Dubois, 23. Leia Moreau, 25. Nurses. Educated. That's good. People will pay more for educated girls. Pay? Rosemarie whispered. What do you mean? The man didn't answer. He pocketed all three phones and passports, then counted the cash. $540. That's it. That's all you brought. We were told everything was provided, Leia said, finding her voice. The program? There is no program, David interrupted. New Horizons doesn't exist. Patricia Chen doesn't exist. The website was built 3 years ago specifically to recruit girls like you. We've brought in maybe 30 women through that setup, most from Haiti, a few from Dominican Republic. You know why Haiti's perfect? Because your country's falling apart. Because nobody notices when Haitian women disappear. Because even if your families report you missing, the authorities don't care. The horror of it crashed over them like a wave. The months of planning, the hope, the goodbyes, all of it had been a lie from the very beginning. Every testimonial, every photo, every detail carefully constructed to lure them into this trap. What are you gonna do with us? Rosemarie asked, though part of her already knew. You're going to work, David said matter-of-factly. Cleaning houses during the day, rich people in Miami Beach, Coral Gables, Brickell, they all need housekeepers. They don't ask questions if the price is right. You work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. You do what you're told. The money you earn comes to us. You get food and a place to sleep. That's it. That's slavery, Ocean said, her voice breaking. This is America. That's illegal. David shrugged. Call it what you want. You have no documents, no money, no way to contact anyone. You don't speak English well enough to ask for help. You're in the country illegally now. Your tourist entry is invalid because you lied about your purpose. If you go to the police, you get deported. And we make sure your families back home pay for it. Literally. The tattooed man spoke for the first time, his accent thick. We know where your mother lives, Rosemarie. Delmas 33, right? That little yellow house near the church. And Ocean, your boyfriend Philippe works at that auto repair shop on Route de l'Aéroport. Be ashamed if something happened to them. They knew everything. Every detail the women had shared during the application process. Every address, every name. It had all been collected, cataloged, weaponized. Leia stood up suddenly, desperate. Please, we won't tell anyone. Just let us go. We'll say we changed our minds. The tattooed man moved faster than seemed possible. He grabbed Leia by her hair and slammed her against the wall. She cried out in pain and shock. Rosemarie and Ocean screamed. Rule number 1, David said calmly, as if nothing had happened. You don't ask to leave. Rule number 2, you don't resist. Rule number 3, you don't talk to anyone outside this house without permission. Break the rules and things get worse, much worse. He nodded to the man with the ponytail, who had returned from the hallway. Take them to the back room. Let them meet the others. Others? Rosemarie felt a fresh wave of horror. They were pushed down the narrow hallway. The ponytailed man opened a door at the end. It had a padlock on the outside and shoved them inside. The room was small, maybe 12 by 15 feet, with 2 sets of bunk beds pushed against opposite walls. 6 thin mattresses, threadbare sheets, a bucket in the corner serving as a toilet. 4 young women sat on the lower bunks, staring at the newcomers with hollow eyes. One of them, a girl who couldn't have been older than 20 with dark skin and braided hair, spoke in Haitian Creole, "Welcome to hell." The door locked behind them with a heavy click. Rosemarie, Océane, and Leia stood frozen, staring at the 4 women already in the room. All of them looked exhausted, malnourished, defeated. The girl who had spoken in Creole stood up slowly, as if the effort pained her. "I'm Sabine," she said softly. "I've been here 14 months. These are Evelise, Manuchka, and Farah." She pointed to each woman in turn. Evelise looked about 30, her face gaunt and lined with premature wrinkles. Manuchka appeared younger, maybe 22, with a scar running along her left cheekbone. Farah was the oldest, perhaps 35, and sat with her arms wrapped protectively around her midsection. "All Haitian?" Leah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Evelise and I are. Manuchka is Dominican. Farah is from Jamaica." Sabine switched to English so everyone could understand. They use the same trick for different countries: nursing programs, teaching positions, hospitality training, whatever sounds believable. Rosemarie sank onto one of the lower bunks, her legs no longer able to support her. 14 months? Why hasn't anyone found us? Why hasn't anyone? Nobody's looking, Sabine interrupted gently. Not really, we're invisible. Haitian women disappear all the time trying to reach America. The authorities assume we're living illegally somewhere, working under the table, sending money home. Our families file reports that go nowhere. The embassy has thousands of cases. We're just numbers. Océane wiped her eyes. How many of us are there? Just us 7. In this house, yes. But they have other houses, other operations. David, that's the main one, the recruiter. He works with at least 3 other groups that we know of. They rotate us between locations sometimes, depending on where the work is. What kind of work? Rosemarie asked, though she dreaded the answer. Evelise spoke for the first time, her English heavily accented. Cleaning houses, office buildings, sometimes warehouses. They drive us in the van before dawn, drop us at different locations, pick us up after dark. The clients pay David. We never see the money. We get 1 meal a day, usually rice and beans. Water. That's it. If we're sick, Leah pressed. Manuchka touched the scar on her face. You work anyway. I got this when I fainted cleaning a 3rd floor condo, fell down the stairs. They didn't take me to hospital, just glued it shut and made me work the next day. The room fell silent. From somewhere in the house, they could hear men's voices, laughter, bottles clinking. There's 3 of them that stay here, Sabine continued, keeping her voice low. David, the one who brought you, he's in charge. Then there's Miguel with the tattoos and Carson with the ponytail. They work shifts. At least one is always here, watching. The doors and windows are all secured. There's barbed wire on the fence. Dogs patrol outside at night. Dogs? Océane repeated. 2 Rottweilers. They're trained to attack if anyone tries to run. Farah finally spoke, her Jamaican accent thick. 5 girls have tried to escape since I've been here. 4 got caught before they reached the road. The dogs got 1. Miguel got the others. She paused and her eyes were haunted. They made us watch what they did to them. As a lesson, Rosemarie felt bile rise in her throat. Where are those girls now? 2 were moved to a different house. Punishment locations where the work is worse. 1 died from the injuries. The other 2. Farah trailed off, unable or unwilling to continue. The hours crawled by. Night fell. The men brought food eventually. A pot of plain white rice, 7 plastic bowls, 7 plastic spoons. No meat, no vegetables, no seasoning. They ate in silence, too hungry to refuse despite the circumstances. The sleeping arrangements were cramped. Rosemarie, Océane, and Leia shared 2 bunks, trying to comfort each other through whispered conversations in Creole. Nobody slept well that first night. Every sound made them jump. Footsteps in the hallway, doors opening and closing, the dogs barking outside. At 4:30 a.m., the lights flicked on. Carson banged on the door. Up, you have 10 minutes. They dressed in the same clothes from yesterday. Nobody had any others. The bathroom was a horror. One toilet, one sink with rust-stained fixtures, cold water only. 7 women trying to prepare for the day in minutes. David was waiting in the front room with a clipboard. Rosemarie, Ocean, Leia, you 3 are going to watch today. Learn the routine. Starting tomorrow, you work. They were loaded into the van with Sabine, Ivelisse, and Manuchka. Farah remained behind. She was noticeably pregnant, maybe 5 or 6 months along, and no longer sent to clean houses. The drive took 40 minutes. Dawn broke slowly over South Florida's flat landscape. Warehouses, strip malls, gated communities rising like fortresses behind walls. The van wound through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until it reached Coral Gables, where massive houses sat on manicured lots behind security gates. David pulled up to a Mediterranean-style mansion with a red tile roof and towering royal palms. A middle-aged white woman in tennis clothes answered the back door. She looked at the 6 women with cool indifference. "This is Mrs. Richardson," David said smoothly. His professional demeanor returned. "Sabine and Ivelisse will deep clean the main house today. It's 12 rooms, 4 bathrooms. Everything needs to be spotless by 4 p.m. The new girls are training. They'll shadow." Mrs. Richardson nodded. "The usual rate?" "Yes, ma'am. $200 for the day." She handed him cash without counting it, then looked at the women. "There's cleaning supplies in the utility closet. Don't touch anything personal. Don't use the main bathrooms. There's one off the garage you can use. Don't speak to my children if you see them. Understand?" They nodded mutely. For the next 10 hours, Rosemarie watched Sabine and Ivelisse scrub, vacuum dust, and polish every surface in the enormous house. The Richardson family moved through their day oblivious. Children heading to school, Mrs. Richardson leaving for her tennis game, a husband appearing briefly to grab something from his home office. None of them made eye contact with the women cleaning their home. During a brief break, Rosemarie whispered to Sabine, "She knows, doesn't she, Mrs. Richardson? She knows we're not here voluntarily." Sabine squeezed her hand. "They all know, or they choose not to know, which is the same thing. They pay David cash. No paperwork, no questions. We're cheaper than legal housekeepers, and we can't complain about conditions or wages. For them, it's perfect." "That's how it works everywhere," Ivelisse added bitterly. "Rich people want cheap labor. They don't care where it comes from." The weeks blurred into months. Rosemarie lost track of time. There were no calendars, no way to mark the days. The routine became mechanical. Wake before dawn, work 12 hours, return to the locked room, eat whatever minimal food was provided, collapse onto the thin mattress, repeat. They cleaned houses in Coral Gables, Coconut Grove, Pinecrest, and Miami Beach. Enormous estates with pools, home theaters, wine cellars. Families with multiple luxury cars and closets bigger than the room where 7 women slept. The clients never asked questions. Cash changed hands. David always smiled his professional smile, and the women scrubbed toilets, mopped floors, and dusted chandeliers worth more than everything their families in Haiti owned combined. By August, Rosemarie had lost 15 pounds. Her hands were raw and cracked from chemicals. Ocean developed a persistent cough that wouldn't go away. Leia's back ached constantly from the physical labor. She had aggravated an old injury lifting heavy boxes in a client's garage. Farah's pregnancy progressed. By September, she was visibly struggling. Her ankles swelled. She had difficulty breathing. The men didn't care. They made her continue with light housework, folding laundry, washing dishes. "When is your baby due?" Rosemarie asked her one evening. "Late October, I think. Maybe early November. I'm not sure exactly." Farah's hand rested on her belly. "I got pregnant in February, before they brought me here." "Your boyfriend back home?" "My husband. We'd been married 6 months." Her eyes filled with tears. "He thinks I abandoned him. I sent him a message through the fake Patricia account saying I'd arrive safely. After that, nothing. He must think I left him intentionally, that America was more important than our marriage." Ocean, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke. "I think I'm pregnant too." Everyone turned to look at her. She was crying silently. "I haven't had my period in 2 months. I feel sick every morning. It's Miguel's. He comes to the room at night sometimes when Carson and David are asleep or gone. He chooses one of us. Last time it was me." The room went silent. They all knew this happened. The men treated them as property in every sense. But hearing it stated so plainly made it unbearably real. "Are you sure?" Sabine asked gently. "I'm sure." Ocean's voice was hollow. "I didn't want to believe it, but I'm sure." Leia pulled her friend into an embrace. Rosemarie felt rage building in her chest alongside the fear. This couldn't be their future. It couldn't be. In October, Farah went into labor. It started early one morning, contractions that made her double over in pain. The men ignored her for hours. When it became clear the baby was coming, David finally made a phone call. A woman arrived 2 hours later, Hispanic, perhaps 50, carrying a medical bag. She wasn't a doctor. She might have been a nurse once, but she worked for the trafficking operation now, handling medical emergencies that couldn't involve hospitals. They cleared one of the bunks. Farah screamed through 18 hours of labor with only aspirin for pain. The makeshift midwife spoke soothingly in Spanish, but she was clearly concerned. The baby was coming wrong, feet first, and Farah was hemorrhaging. Rosemarie, who had assisted at births during her nursing training, recognized the signs of a dangerous delivery. "She needs a hospital," she said urgently to David, who watched from the doorway with arms crossed. "She could die. The baby could die." "Not my problem," he said flatly. "You'll have a dead woman on your hands," Rosemarie pressed. "Is that what you want? A body?" He considered this, weighing the inconvenience. Finally, she better not die. Make sure she doesn't. With only basic supplies and no proper equipment, Rosemarie and the midwife did what they could. Farah pushed for another 2 hours, screaming until her voice gave out. When the baby finally emerged, a tiny girl, blue and not breathing, Rosemarie's hands moved on instinct. She cleared the infant's airway, rubbed her back, stimulated her lungs. After terrifying seconds, the baby gasped and began to cry. Farah sobbed with relief and exhaustion. The midwife stitched her roughly. There were significant tears, while Rosemarie wrapped the baby in a clean t-shirt, the closest thing they had to receiving blankets. "What will you name her?" Leia asked softly. Farah looked at her daughter through tears. "Esperanza. It means hope." David left without another word. The midwife departed soon after, taking her cash payment. The 7 women, now 8 with baby Esperanza, were left alone again. Caring for a newborn in those conditions was nearly impossible. Farah had no diapers, no formula, no crib. They fashioned diapers from torn sheets. Farah breastfed despite being malnourished herself. The baby slept in a dresser drawer lined with towels. When Esperanza cried, which was often, they took turns walking her, bouncing her, singing softly in Creole and Spanish and patois. The men were annoyed by the crying. Miguel threatened to get rid of the baby if she didn't quiet down. After that, whenever Esperanza fussed, the women would panic, desperately trying to soothe her before one of the men came back. Ocean's pregnancy became undeniable. By November, she was showing. Miguel noticed and seemed pleased with himself, like she was livestock successfully bred. The realization that she would give birth in this place, under these conditions, sent Ocean into deep depression. She stopped speaking for days at a time, just staring at the walls. It was Sabine who first voiced what they were all thinking. Late one night, long after the men had gone to sleep, she whispered, "We have to try to escape. We can't stay here. We can't let Ocean have her baby in this room." 5 girls tried, Evelise reminded her. "Look what happened." "So we're smarter, we plan better, we wait for the right moment." "What moment?" Manuchka asked bitterly. "They watch us constantly. The doors are locked. The dogs are outside. We have no money, no phones, no documents. Where would we even go?" Rosemarie spoke up, her voice stronger than she felt. "We go to the police, a real police station in Miami. We walk in, we tell them everything. We refuse to leave. They can't deport us all instantly. Once we're in official custody, we're protected. They have to investigate." David said, Leia began. "David lied." Rosemarie interrupted. "About everything. He lied about the nursing program. He lied about the work permits. Why would he tell the truth about the police? Yes, we came here under false pretenses, but we're victims of trafficking. That's a federal crime in the United States. There are laws, protections. Planning an escape in whispers, in stolen moments, required patience they barely had. But desperation sharpened their focus. They began paying attention to patterns, routines, vulnerabilities. David left every Wednesday afternoon for several hours, meeting with clients or coordinating with other trafficking operations. Miguel worked overnight shifts at a warehouse on Thursdays and Fridays, sleeping most of Saturday. Carson was the weakest link. He drank heavily, often passing out on the couch by midnight. The dogs were released at 9 p.m. and brought back inside at 6 a.m. The van keys hung on a hook in the kitchen, but the kitchen was never unguarded. The front door had a deadbolt requiring a key from both sides. The windows were screwed shut and had bars on the outside. Their best chance, they decided, was during a work shift at a client's house in a wealthy neighborhood where police actually responded to calls. If they could separate from David for even 5 minutes, they could run, find help, flag down a car, something. The opportunity came in mid-November. David scheduled them to clean a massive waterfront property in Coconut Grove. The family was traveling. The house would be empty. It was a full-day job. All 7 women working together, with David supervising. Rosemarie had been to this house before. She remembered the layout: a long driveway, extensive gardens, a pool area, and most importantly, a neighbor's house visible through the hedges. A wealthy neighborhood meant security patrols, gardeners, delivery people, witnesses. The night before, they refined their plan. They couldn't all run. Someone had to stay with Farah and Bobby Esperanza, who couldn't move quickly. Sabine volunteered to remain behind. "I'm the oldest here," she said quietly. "I've been here the longest. If anyone pays the price, it should be me." "No," Rosemarie insisted. "We don't leave anyone." But Sabine was firm. "Listen to me. You run. 3 of you. Rosemarie, Leia, Océane. You're the newest. You still have family back home who remember exactly when you left, who you talked to, what you were promised. Your cases will be clearest. You get out. You go to the authorities. You bring them back here. You save the rest of us." It was a terrible plan with countless ways it could fail, but it was the only plan they had. The morning of November 17th, 2024. They loaded into the van as usual. Rosemarie's heart pounded so violently she thought David might hear it. Océane, now 4 months pregnant, looked pale and terrified. Leia squeezed both their hands. The drive to Coconut Grove took 50 minutes. The house was even larger than Rosemarie remembered. A coral-colored mansion right on Biscayne Bay with a dock and a yacht. David parked in the circular driveway and handed out assignments. "Evelise and Manuchka, you're on the first floor. Farah, you stay in the kitchen. There's dishes and laundry. Sabine, second floor bedrooms. Rosemarie, Leia, Océane, you 3 take the 3rd floor and the pool house." He checked his watch. "I've got a meeting at 1 p.m. I'll be gone maybe 2 hours. Carson's coming to watch you." Rosemarie's stomach sank. Carson, not David. That changed things. Carson was less organized, but more violent. Still, they had no choice. This might be their only chance. They worked through the morning. Carson stationed himself in the main living room, visible through most of the house, scrolling on his phone. At 12:45, he ordered lunch delivery, pizza, which he ate alone, while the women continued scrubbing bathrooms and vacuuming carpets. By 2 p.m., Rosemarie noticed Carson's eyes drooping. The heat, the full stomach, the boring hours of watching women clean. It was making him drowsy. She caught Leia's eye and nodded slightly. They were on the 3rd floor, supposedly cleaning a guest suite. Océane was with them, now or never. Leia whispered in Creole. They moved to the far end of the hallway where a window overlooked the backyard. Rosemarie tested it carefully. Locked, but the lock looked old. She grabbed a letter opener from a nearby desk and worked it into the window frame. Her hand shook. The lock resisted, then suddenly gave with a soft click. The window slid open. Humid Florida air rushed in. Below them, maybe 15 feet down, was a landscaped garden bed with soft soil and bushes. Beyond that, the property line and the neighbor's yard. "We jump, we run for that house," Rosemarie said, pointing. "We bang on the door, we scream, we don't stop until someone helps us." Océane looked down at the drop, fear written across her face. "I'm pregnant. What if I hurt the baby?" "What if you have the baby in that locked room?" Leia countered. "This is the only way." They heard Carson's voice downstairs, calling for someone. They froze. Footsteps on the stairs. He was coming up. "Go!" Rosemarie hissed. "Now!" Leia went first, climbing onto the windowsill and jumping. She landed hard, rolling into the bushes with a grunt of pain, but scrambling to her feet immediately. Océane went next, more carefully, hanging from the ledge before dropping. She hit the ground awkwardly, crying out. Carson's footsteps were in the hallway now. "Where the hell are you 3? Rosemarie didn't hesitate. She dove through the window just as the bedroom door burst open. Carson's shout of rage echoed behind her as she fell, landing badly on her ankle. Pain shot through her leg, but adrenaline overrode it. She grabbed Ocean, who was limping, and they ran. Behind them, Carson was yelling into his phone. The front door of the mansion slammed open. They could hear him crashing through the garden. The three women sprinted across the lawn, through a gap in the hedge, onto the neighbor's pristine property. Rosemarie's ankle screamed with every step. Ocean was crying and holding her stomach. Leia was ahead, reaching the front door of the neighboring house. She pounded on it frantically. "Help! Please, help us!" An elderly white man opened the door, startled. "What on earth? Call 911!" Leia shouted in broken English. "Please, we kidnapped. We need police." The man's eyes widened as he took in their appearance. Three young women in dirty clothes, wild-eyed, one visibly pregnant, all of them desperate. Behind them, Carson burst through the hedge, his face contorted with fury. "Those are my workers," he shouted at the homeowner. "They're illegal. They're trying to rob you." But the man had already pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the police," he said firmly, stepping back and starting to close the door. "You girls get inside, now." They stumbled into the air-conditioned foyer. The man locked the door behind them. Through the window, they could see Carson pacing, screaming threats, but he didn't approach the house. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. The idea took root slowly, growing in whispered conversations over the following weeks. They couldn't all escape at once. 7 women, including one heavily pregnant and one with an infant, would be impossible to move quickly. But if they could get even one person out, someone who could go to the authorities and lead them back, it might work. "The best chance is during a work run," Sabine reasoned. "When we're outside the house, away from the dogs, in public areas. If one of us can slip away while the others cover, they'll punish everyone left behind," Evelise interrupted. "You know they will." "They'll punish us anyway," Rosemarie said grimly. "Eventually. We've all seen what happens to girls who get too sick to work, or too old, or too difficult. They don't just let us go. We disappear." It was true. In the 18 months since Rosemarie's arrival, 2 women had been taken away. Both had become liabilities. One had developed a serious infection that antibiotics couldn't clear. The other had tried to fight back when Miguel came to the room one night. Neither woman had returned. The men offered no explanations. They studied the patterns. Carson was the least attentive guard. He often dozed off in the van while waiting or got distracted by his phone. David was meticulous and dangerous. Miguel was paranoid and violent. Their best chance would be on a day when Carson was driving alone at a location far enough from the house that they'd have time before the others could respond. December brought a cold snap to South Florida, temperatures dropping into the 50s, which felt arctic to people accustomed to Caribbean warmth. The clients wanted their homes prepared for holiday parties. More work, longer hours, bigger houses farther apart. On December 18th, 2024, 18 months after they'd arrived in Florida, the opportunity came. Carson was driving the van alone that day. Miguel had gone to pick up supplies. David was meeting with potential new clients. They were assigned to a massive estate in Pinecrest, a gated community with security, but once inside, the lots were enormous and the houses set far back from each other. Rosemarie, Leia, and Manuchka were selected for this job. The homeowner, a woman in her 60s named Mrs. Palmer, needed her house deep cleaned for a Christmas party she was hosting that weekend. She would be out all day at a spa appointment. Carson parked the van in the circular driveway, handed them the cleaning supplies, and settled into the driver's seat with his phone and an energy drink. "You have until 5 o'clock. Don't screw around." The Palmer house was enormous, 7,000 square feet at least, with soaring ceilings, marble floors, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a pool and golf course views. The women split up to work faster, but Rosemarie noticed something crucial. The rear of the property backed onto a nature preserve, dense vegetation, no fences, and beyond that, she could see another residential street maybe half a mile away. She found Leia in one of the upstairs bathrooms. "There's a way out through the back, through the preserve. If we go now, Carson will see us from the driveway," Leia whispered urgently. "Not if Manushka keeps him distracted. We go out the back, through the preserve. We reach the next street over. We find help before he even knows we're gone." Leia's eyes were wide with fear. "And Manuchka?" "Manuchka stays and plays dumb, says she thought we were in different parts of the house. By the time Carson realizes what happened and calls the others, we'll be at a police station." When they brought Manuchka into the plan, she was terrified but agreed. "Go," she said. "Run fast. Get help for all of us." At 2:30 p.m., Manuchka went outside on the pretense of needing to get more cleaning solution from the van. She engaged Carson in conversation, asking about the schedule, complaining about a pain in her back, anything to keep his attention toward the front of the house. Rosemarie and Leia slipped out through the pool deck. Their hearts hammered as they crossed the open lawn, expecting to hear Carson shout at any moment, but they reached the tree line undetected and plunged into the thick Florida vegetation. The preserve was humid, overgrown, difficult to navigate. Palmettos scraped their arms, they stumbled over roots and pushed through spider webs. But they could see the street ahead through the trees. Just a few hundred yards more. Behind them, faintly, they heard shouting. Carson had realized. They ran harder, branches whipping their faces, lungs burning. The street was close. So close. They burst out of the vegetation onto a quiet residential road. Modest ranch houses lined the street, a few cars and driveways. A man washing his car looked up in surprise at the two women emerging from the trees, wild-eyed and scratched up. "Help!" Rosemarie gasped. "Please, we need police." The man hesitated, clearly uncertain about these two disheveled women speaking with heavy accents. "We've been kidnapped," Leia said desperately. 18 months. Please, police, now." That word, kidnapped, galvanized him. He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling 911. Come here. It's okay. You're safe." Rosemarie nearly collapsed with relief. They'd done it. They were out. It was over. The 911 operator kept the man on the phone, while Rosemarie and Leia huddled near his car, watching the street anxiously. 5 minutes later, a Miami-Dade Police Department cruiser arrived, followed quickly by a second one. Two officers, one Hispanic male, one black female, approached cautiously. "We received a call about a possible kidnapping?" The words tumbled out of Rosemarie in a mixture of English and Creole and desperate gestures. Leia tried to fill in gaps. They'd been trafficked, held for 18 months, forced labor. There were 5 more women at a house in Southwest Miami-Dade, one with a baby. One pregnant. They needed help now. The men would move everyone once they realized 2 had escaped. The female officer, whose nameplate read Detective Martinez, studied them carefully. Their appearance corroborated their story. Malnourished, exhausted, clothes filthy from the preserve, visible fear in their eyes. "Okay," she said, her voice calm and professional. "You're safe now. We're going to take you to the station, get your full statements, and we'll send units to check out the location you're describing. Can you tell me exactly where this house is?" That was the problem. Rosemarie and Leia had never paid attention to the route. They'd been in the back of the van, windows tinted, driven in darkness. They knew it was 40 minutes from Pinecrest, rural area. Yellow cinder block house. Dogs, but no address, no street name, no landmarks. "We can take you there," Rosemarie said urgently. "We can show you, but you have to go now, before they move the others." Detective Martinez made a quick decision. "Get in. We'll backtrack from where you were working." They climbed into the back of the cruiser, the first time they'd been in a vehicle without fear in a year and a half. The officer radioed for backup and called in a possible human trafficking situation, requesting additional units and supervisors. As they drove, Rosemarie gave every detail she could remember: Carson's appearance, the van's description, the layout of the house, the names of the women inside, David and Miguel's patterns. Detective Martinez recorded everything. When they reached the Palmer house, Carson's van was gone. Manuchka was sitting on the front steps, crying. She ran to the police car when it pulled up. "They took me back," she sobbed. "Carson realized you two were gone. He called David. They came and got me. But they left me here when they saw police lights in the area. They panicked and ran." "Did they say where they were going?" the detective asked. "No, just yelled at me. Told me if I talked to police, they'd kill everyone. Then they left me." More units arrived. Detective Martinez organized a search for a white 15-passenger van. She called in the FBI. Human trafficking crossed state and international lines, making it federal jurisdiction. Within an hour, an FBI agent named Sarah Chen arrived, and the whole process began again. Statements, descriptions, timelines. "We need to find that house," Agent Chen said, "today, before they move or hurt the remaining victims." The detective had an idea. Where does this operation drop their workers normally? If they service wealthy areas regularly, someone might have seen the van, noticed a pattern. They contacted security offices in gated communities throughout South Miami-Dade. By 7 p.m., they had 3 possible sightings of a van matching the description. By 9 p.m., a helicopter with thermal imaging was searching a 50-square-mile area of rural farmland southwest of Homestead. At 11:47 p.m., the helicopter spotted it, a yellow cinderblock house with a white van parked outside, heat signatures of multiple people inside, 2 dogs in a pen.